Hey everybody, how's it going? It's your captain speaking. As you can see, I'm playing a little Godzilla on the PS4, and I'm here to give my review of the currently released Shin Godzilla, also known as Godzilla Resurgence to some people. Let me start off by saying I thoroughly enjoyed this film. Like, it's pretty much everything I could have asked for in a Godzilla film. You know, I mean, I probably could have asked for more, but considering I wasn't expecting to get anything at all, and then the Americans made their film, and Japan's like, "Hey, we're gonna make one of our own." I think, uh, I think it turned out pretty damn good. It's uniquely theirs. So, I will start by calling it. I wouldn't. I would say it's a movie's a political thriller with a kaiju aspect, which may sound boring to some of you because it's like, whoa, I'm watching a Godzilla movie. I want to see Godzilla, but I mean, the movie itself is awesome and the characters are great. You you are thoroughly invested in everything that's going on, and I will say if the politics in the movie are anything what it's like to work in the Japanese government, holy crap, is that annoying as hell. Because it's like you gotta have a meeting to have a meeting, to decide on what you're gonna do, on how you're gonna stop this giant creature from wreaking havoc across your country and killing innocent people. And it's like it should be obvious, but I digress. I'm gonna start with the most obvious part of my, review, and that's gonna be the monster himself, Godzilla. He is completely reimagined in this film, but I mean he's changed so many times over the years it's hard to keep track. But it totally works this time around. He's terrifying and fearsome and just a complete force of destruction that is just seemingly unstoppable. So it's oh man. And when we start off, he shows up. It starts off with like what people think is an earthquake that destroys an underground tunnel, but then Godzilla comes ashore. And let me start by saying he does not look like Godzilla. He looks like this weird T-Rex worm thing that has no arms and kind of slithers across the ground. And kind of similar to this Mothra here. All right, maybe not that similar, but yeah, he's like has gills and is bleeding out of those gills for some reason, and just like not at all that terrifying because he's got these weird googly eyes that just never seem to go away through the entire movie. But it's okay. And then, the government is trying to decide on what to do. And when it finally decides it's going to take some action and send some helicopters in to go after him, he transforms by standing more upright and starts sprouting these tiny little arms. And just as they're about to take action, some people are seen in the crossfire. And they're like, oh crap, we can't do this. We're going to have to cancel or abort mission, whatever, which then Godzilla retreats back to the ocean. So, but then when he later shows up, he is in his fully evolved form, or at least, as evolved as we're going to see in this movie. And whoa, he is fierce, like such a force of destruction. You do not want to see this thing in a dark alley sort of thing. If you had a dark alley big enough for that. But he's got all kinds of these cool new powers where, he just doesn't shoot the beam from his mouth. He shoots it from his tail and all of his spines, and he is just one great big walking weapon of mass destruction. And it's glorious. The visuals are amazing, especially when he uses all his powers. Oh god, it's great. A awesome new addition to the Godzilla family, to to say the least. And so let me move over to the character side of it. And there's two standout characters in the film. First one being the, I guess you could call him the main protagonist, is Rando Yaguchi, who is the Deputy Chief Cabinet Secretary. And he sort of, you know, he pushes the plot forward, but he is a great character. He's this young, upstart political person who's trying to become prime minister. And, you know, he's willing to think outside the box when facing the situation. And, you know, it totally works for him. He is a compelling character. You want him to win. You care about him and, you know, everything that's going on. And you kind of want to see him become prime minister. He doesn't in this movie, but, you know, if they ever make a sequel to it, or, you know, whatever, bring his character back for whatever reason, I would be perfectly okay with it. Or even if they just cast the same actor in a different role in another Godzilla movie, I am still okay with that. But anyways, the other standout character totally has to be Kyoko Ann Patterson, who is while she is of Japanese descent, she is American born. She is an envoy to the President of the United States of America, you know, and she's there to help broker any deals between America and Japan, and, you know, helping them figure out how to stop this problem, which, you know, is one hell of a problem. And she is on her own a force to be reckoned with. You don't want to mess with her. You know, she knows what she wants. She says it in the film. She wants to become president of the United States. You know, she is a great character overall. And the actress, whose name I'm not even going to try to pronounce, is quite compelling. You know, the way she, you know, stops, you know, speaking Japanese for a moment and suddenly speaks English, kind of adds to her character, which is just, you know, it's just enjoyable. And then, you know, the interactions between Kyoko and Rando, you know, they work. They have good chemistry together, and you love seeing them banter back and forth with each other. You know, he goes toe to toe with her and all the English speaking and stuff, and it's thoroughly entertaining. I will say there's not a whole lot of kaiju action in the film. It's only Godzilla versus Japan. You know, there's no Godzilla versus another monster thing going on, you know, which most people are accustomed to, but, you know, it's not a bad thing. It works for the film, you know, and there's a short amount of screen time for Godzilla, but, you know, the in-between, the stuff that happens on the political side of it, is quite compelling, and, you know, you are thoroughly invested even during the slow parts. You know, it helps you get through to the, you know, the main event, so to speak, that you're there for. You're there for Godzilla, nothing else. So it's, you know, it's filled with many gripping character moments. So I will say, you know, all right, I'm getting into spoiler territory here. Rando has this team of, I guess, upcoming out-of-the-box thinking scientists on figuring out how to defeat Godzilla, and they get a hold of some of his cells after a military attack on him. That sort of, you know, that actually manages to do some kind of damage to him. And after studying it, they find out that, you know, if they were to use a special blood coagulant, which is pretty hilarious because that's sort of a throwback to Godzilla vs. Space Godzilla. If you've never seen it before, you totally should. But they developed this special blood coagulant to use on Godzilla. And in the third act, you know, when they're using it against him, the attack starts with them hitting him in the legs with trains, which is totally something I've never seen before. It's welcome addition to attacks on Godzilla. And when he falls over, they attack him with fire trucks filled with this coagulant, spraying it in his mouth. And, you know, it takes a couple of tries, obviously, but they eventually manage to, you know, get enough in him that his blood starts to freeze and he becomes this giant statue in the middle of Tokyo. Which, excuse me, sorry about that. Which is kind of weird looking, but you know, hey, whatever. And you know, so once he's frozen, they decide they're just gonna leave him like that. But you know, they sort of come to a decision with the United Nations that should he ever come back to life, they are going to launch a thermonuclear strike against Godzilla. So they sort of just leave him that way. Kyoko goes back to America. Rando goes back to working for the government. You know, I wouldn't say everything's all hunky-dory, but they're going to try to get Japan back into shape. And the end scene, major spoilers here, the end scene is the camera panning up Godzilla's body. And as it reaches his tail, for some reason it starts at his head and then works its way to the tail. Once it gets to the tip of his tail, you start to notice these humanoid-looking figures that sort of like have spines and tails the way Godzilla has, and you can see that, hey, this creature is asexual and it's about to reproduce. So, yeah, that could have ended terribly, but it didn't. But totally leaving it open to potential sequel, though I'd be cool if it is a one and done. Like I said before, I thoroughly enjoyed this film. It was very entertaining, and you know, I can't wait to see anything else they do. I believe they have an animated Godzilla movie coming out next year. Should be great. And thank you for listening. Hope you guys have a great night and take it easy.